vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Michelle, and for the next hour I'll be reading from the March 29th issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News and the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Cover story: Banksy revealed. The street artist anonymity has long been part of his mystique, by Laurie Kelman. London. Years before the rise of Instagram, Banksy figured out that the key to real influence lay in not being famous exactly, but in being anonymous. The mystery of his identity has long been part of the value of his art, which for decades and across continents defied authority from public walls and self-shredded on the auction block. Now Banksy's apparent unmasking by the Rutgers News Agency has generated talk about whether the works themselves retain their cultural and financial value. It also raises the question, why pop the red balloon of his mystique in the first place? Many Banksy fans mourn the loss of the mystery and lashed out at the news outlet. One said it was like being told without warning that Santa Claus doesn't exist. I feel like they're telling me how a magic trick is done, said Thomas Evans, a Denver-based artist on Instagram. Sometimes I just want to enjoy the magic trick. But some art experts say the murals and the message will survive Banksy's naming because his appeal wasn't driven solely by anonymity. He and his works, mischievous and also dark, stand as witnesses to injustice, oppression, and inequality around the world. From the artist's native England to walled-off Bethlehem and war-ravaged Ukraine. Subtract his anonymity, they say, and the work still inspires reflection and discussion. People buy his works because they absolutely love it, said Aklis Andipa, director of the Andipa Gallery in London. The main feedback that I get is that they really, frankly, don't care if they know who he is. Naming the ghost is engagement, too. Banksy, long thought to have been born Robin Gunningham around 1972, grew out of a tradition of street artists who viewed the undercover act of posing their art in public as a subversive form of expression. The post-industrial landscape of his native Bristol was his canvas and gallery. The walls of London, New York, and elsewhere gave him a global stage just before the rise of social media. Banksy's apparent identity has been an open secret among protective fellow artists and long been easy to find online for those who wanted to know. The Daily Mail reported in 2008 compelling evidence suggesting that was the artist's birth name. It has been published by other news outlets, including the Associated Press in 2016, as part of their coverage of the detective work. Rutgers reported last week that after the Daily Mail's story, Banksy changed his legal name to David Jones, the second most popular name in Britain. It's also the given name of another rock star, the late David Bowie, whose Ziggy Stardust avatar inspired a 2012 Banksy painting of Queen Elizabeth II. Banksy's lawyer didn't respond to a request for comment, and the artist's spokeswoman declined to participate in the story. Rutgers pieced together that a David Jones traveled to Ukraine with a well-known associate of Banksy's in late 2022, just before the artist's work began appearing on buildings that had been bombed by Russia. Banksy later confirmed that he had created 7 murals in the war zone, including one of the child flipping over a grown man who's wearing a black belt. Russian President Vladimir Putin practices judo. There's evidence that even some in the establishment he was protesting have accepted Banksy. They didn't arrest him, for example, after the Royal Courts of Justice removed a Banksy stencil depicting a judge in a traditional wig and gown, beating an unarmed protester with a gavel. Some street artists groused that they might be arrested for creating such graffiti but when it's a Banksy, it's art. Gunningham wasn't always so elusive. On September 17, 2000, a Robin Gunningham was arrested for defacing a Marc Jacobs billboard atop a building on Hudson Street in New York. In a handwritten signed confession, he described the work on the night's question. I had been out drinking at a nightclub with friends when I decided to make a humorous adjustment to a billboard on top of the property, he wrote in court records unearthed by Rutgers and confirmed by the AP. I painted eyeshadow on a new mouth and a sick bubble on the photo of a male model. He was charged with a misdemeanor. The artist doesn't need an alleged naming to make news. He created multiple works just in London in 2025 and grabbed headlines elsewhere for having his art sold or auctioned for millions. But Banksy has courted a public image centered around morality, justice, and guerrilla tactics. He's often likened to Robin Hood or Batman. Banksy war's ear, he wrote with his animal murals at the London Zoo, which was removed in 2024. Still, along with the sadness, there's ample speculation in the art world and on social media that the artist himself orchestrated this round of naming. He didn't deny the Rutgers story. That would be very much in line with his practice of stunts and satire, observed Madeline White, the senior sales and acquisition consultant at London's Hang-Up Gallery. As they say, all publicity is good publicity. She noted, however, that the backlash is directed at the media, not the artist or the potency of his work. Rutgers says it opted to publish some, but not all, of the information its reporters uncovered after Banksy's identity because he's a public figure, whatever his name, and he's an outsized influence on public events and discourse. What's more, much of his work has been done on other people's property. Star power transcends anonymity. Named or not, Bansky's stardom lives, art experts say. It endures in the wonder of his ability to erect new art under the noses of authorities well into the age of closed-circuit television and social media. It appeals because his spectacle and wit draw people in their settings. The hulk of bombed buildings, for example, on Israel's towering wall at the border of the West Bank, invite them to reflect. Now fans are on the lookout for how and whether he'll respond to the news of Robert Gunningham and David Jones. Joe Sire, a Banksy expert and founder of My Art Broker, said that the artist has always responded to world events, and that's where the real relevance and value sits. If anything, Banksy's anonymity has functioned less as a celebrity device and more as a way to keep the work universally accessible, detached from personality, ego, or biography, he said in an email. It allows the work to sit in public space politically and culturally without being anchored to an individual in the way the mainstream press often frames it. Christopher Banks, founder of the New York-based Objects of Affection collection, reads Banksy's naming not as a biographical event, but as a structural stress test of the artist's system of managing his absence. Banksy's best works carry their meaning without the author. He was there, Banks wrote, citing the artist's murals in Ukraine and his solidarity with the war's victims. The name matters less than the presence. The presence was always what the work was about. Streaming. The Stream. What's new this week in television, films, and music? By Associated Press. Movies. In Mike and Nick and Alice, March 27th on Disney+, James Marsden plays a hitman named Mike who's hired by a time traveler named Nick, played by Vince Vaughn. Nick wants to prevent the biggest mistake of his life by killing his past self. The film, by writer-director Ben David Grabinski, recently premiered at the SXSW Film Festival. Joachim Trier's Norwegian family drama Sentimental Value is now streaming on Hulu. Nominated for 9 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and won for Best International Film. In it, Renee Reislev and Iga Insader Lilius play sisters who reconnect with their filmmaker father, played by Stellan Skarsgård, who's making an autobiographical film starring an American actor played by Elle Fanning. In her reviews, AP film writer Lindsay Baer wrote that the film's focus may be small and limited, one Norwegian family struggling to connect and communicate, and yet its emotional scope is downright cosmic. Daniel Day-Lewis came out of retirement to star in his first film since 2017's Phantom Thread in Anemone, March 28th on Netflix, a family drama directed by his son, Ronan Day-Lewis. In it, Day-Lewis plays a hermit in the North England woods who's visited by an old friend, played by Sean Bean, sent to bring him back to his son. In her review, AP's Jocelyn Novak called it bleak, so somber, absorbing, but also sometimes opaque, frustratingly opaque. Music. The Red Hot Chili Peppers' eccentric bassist Flea will release its debut album on March 27th. And in a true shock to those who don't know him, it's a trumpet-forward jazz record. You read that correctly. Long before the rocker made a name for himself in a band known for songs about California, he was a huge jazz fan, a musical world he explores on the record titled Honora. Come for the name, stay for his inventive improvisations and star-studded collaborations, which include Radiohead's Thorn, Tom York, and the always introspect Nick Cave. A lot has happened to singer-songwriter Charlie Puth in the time since his last album. Charlie was released in 2022. He got married. He was expecting his first child. He performed at the Super Bowl. Taylor Swift gave him a shout-out for her album, The Tortured Poets Department. And now he's embracing it all in a new record out, March 27th, The Playful Whatever's Clever. Expect fun pop songs about life and its many transformative moments. That and some Kenny G. Swedish pop savant Robin returns with Sextential, her first album in 8 years. It's the 9 tracks of shimmering, nice, dopamine really real, ascending choruses into the sun, and rebellious pop songs that double as emotional life rafts, Sucker for Love. The songs are all about freedom, single motherhood, love, and lust, often in the same breath. It's a lascivious collection for the dance floor, exactly what most pop stars hope to achieve. Many fail, and Robin makes look effortless. Available March 27th. Television. Grab your peanuts and Cracker Jacks because Netflix's first MLB broadcast is opening night on March 25th. The San Francisco Giants will host the New York Yankees. A bride-to-be starts to get a bad feeling after her impending nuptials. It's a cold feet or intuition. Something very bad is going to happen. Stars Camilla Morone, played by Daisy Jones in The Six, and Adam DeMarco, played by the White Lotus, star in the new creepy limited series debuting March 26th on Netflix. Hannah Montana made Miley Cyrus a star, and a new special streaming March 24th on Disney Plus celebrates 20 years since the show's premiere. Filmed in front of a live audience, the Hannah Montana 20th anniversary special will feature music, archival footage, and an interview with Cyrus, posted by podcast host Alex Cooper. Things to do. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the March 29th issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News. Things to do. Boozy Artesian Market expands pre-dingus steak and pierogies. By Tony Roberto. Easter Makers and Shakers, Boozy Artesian Market today, Sunday, and April 3rd and 4th at the Powerhouse on Elk Street. Step Out Buffalo's Makers Plus Shakers events always feature a large array of local artisans and vendors, more than 125 this time, and plenty of chances to try free samples and purchase full drinks. Bonus, this year the Easter edition has grown into a 2-weekend event with a seasonal selection of butterlands, pierogies, and baked goods. Find Mother's Day gifts and something for yourself from vendors and artisans selling home decor, apparel, candies, and beauty and spa items. Hours are 10 to 4 today, Sunday, 3 to 9, April 3rd, and 10 to 6, April 4th. Tickets are $6 and available at the door. Kids ages 10 and younger are admitted free. Pierogi Easter Fest Aid for Ukraine fundraiser, 11 a.m. to 5 today, Sunday, in Holy Trinity Ukrainian Orthodox Church, Como Park Boulevard. Eat in or take out pierogies, along with cabbage rolls, borscht, Easter bread, sauerkraut, and sausage, and other food and dessert to help raise funds for Ukraine. There will be a basket raffle and Ukrainian souvenirs. Food can be pre-ordered. Movie Book Club Project Hail Mary, 3 p.m. today, Sunday, at M&M's Hurdle Avenue in North Park Theater. The film adaptation of Andy Weir's novel Project Hail Mary blew away box office expectations last weekend with the biggest movie opening of the year. In the sci-fi film, Ryan Gosling plays a teacher who awakens with amnesia on a spaceship and has to piece together fragments of his memories. This 2-part event starts with a chat about the book at M&M's, followed by a quick walk across the street to the North Park Theater to watch the film on the big screen. The discussions are very chill, no stress thoughts about the book and whatever other topics we're feeling passionate about at the moment, organizers say. Jesus Christ Superstar, April 2nd through the 19th, Shays, 710 Main Street. Frank Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice's 1971 Broadway hit is especially relevant this time of year as it imagines the final week in the life of Jesus Christ. The musical was originally released in 1970 as a concept album, and the songs remain as catchy and powerful today, including Superstar, Everything's All Right, What's the Buzz, I Don't Know How to Love Him, and the emotionally devastating Gethsemane. The large cast includes Tiger Brown as Jesus, Christopher Bartolomeo as Herod, Lily Jones as Pontius Pilate, Quinn McGillian as Judas, and Amy Walker as Mary Magdalene. Co-directors are Randy Kramer and Michael Oliver Walline, who is also the choreographer. Visit musicfair.com. Pre-Dingus Day Party with Those Idiots, 3 to 6, Saturday, April 4th in the Huffer House. Why wait until official Dingus Day to celebrate? Get a head start on the activities by joining the band Those Idiots for this pre-party with music, sing-alongs, and plenty of Polish traditions. This is an all-inside, so no super soakers or squirt guns larger than 3 inches are allowed. The $25 general admission includes a free beverage. $60 VIP ticket also available with more perks. Quick calendar. Tropus, 8 p.m., Monday, March 30th at the Hall Walls on Delaware. John Mulaney, 7:30, April 2 and 3 in Shays Buffalo Theater, Main Street. Jonathan Butler, 8 p.m. Thursday, April 2nd in the Buffalo State Performing Arts Center, Elmwood. Howdy's Country Night Thursdays, doors open at 6, Thursday, April 2nd at the Stage, Western New York, Main Street. Music by Highway 31, line dancing, Mechanical Bull. Tribute to Bob Seger, 6 p.m. Saturday, April 4th at the Cove on Transit Road, Depew. Western Riviera Theater. Live in concert, Mike Delgadence, just announced, live in concert, Mike DeGaddis, October 3rd. Just announced, Darcy Lynn, October 15th. Coming up events, Strange Love, April 4th. Best Friends Girl, a tribute to the Cars, April 10th. The McCartney Experience, April 11th. Simply the Best, a tribute to Tina Turner, April 17th. John Wayne, April 25th. Love Sexy, tribute to Prince, May 8th. Rush Experience, May 15 and 16. The American Ride, May 22nd. Starry, Starry Night, May 28th. Smells Like Nirvana, May 29th. Like Combs, May 30th. Tapestry, Carole King Songbook, June 5th. Awaken, The Eyes of Yes, June 6th. Linger, The Cranberries Tribute, June 13th. Movies. Lost in Space. 8 movies about being stranded in the cosmos by Josh Rottenberg. Space isn't a forgiving place to be stuck. There's no air, no pulling over for directions, and no margin for error. When something goes wrong, you're left with whatever you have on hand for however long you can make it last. That fear drives the new sci-fi epic Project Hail Mary, with Ryan Gosling as Ryland Grace, a middle school science teacher who wakes up alone in a spacecraft light years from Earth with no memory of how to get there. Gradually, he realizes he's been sent on a mission to figure out why the sun is dimming and how to stop it. What begins in isolation turns into something closer to a buddy movie, as Grace ends up working with an alien he names Rocky, another traveler trying to solve the same problem. The film, directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, comes from sci-fi author Andy Weir, whose earlier similarly survival-themed breakthrough novel, The Martian, was adapted by director Ridley Scott in 2015. That movie put Matt Damon alone on Mars and made the act of thinking through one life or death problem the engine of the story. The result was a critical and commercial hit that earned 7 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. Put someone out in space long enough and the story can go in many directions. Sometimes it's about survival, sometimes it turns inward, sometimes it gets more horrific or even darkly comic. Here are 8 of our favorite movies about people lost or stranded in space. Watch them somewhere with plenty of oxygen. 2001, A Space Odyssey, 1968. Stanley Kubrick's landmark Mind Melter begins as a mission to Jupiter and ends somewhere much harder to define. Once the ship's computer, HAL 9000, turns on the crew, astronaut Dave Bowen is left alone, moving through a vessel that no longer feels entirely under human control. HBO Max. Solaris, 1972, adapted from Polish author Stan Lem's novel, Russian director Andrei Tarkovsky's slow, hypnotic Solaris follows a psychologist sent to a remote space station where the crew is already beginning to unravel. The planet they are studying has a life and mind of its own. Watching on HBO Max, Tubi, Plex, Pluto TV. Silent Running, 1972, the directorial debut of visual effects pioneer Douglas Trumbull, known for his work on 2001, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and Blade Runner. Silent Running imagines a future where the last forests on Earth survive only in a domed gardens drifting through space. Bruce Stern plays their caretaker, a man who refuses the order to destroy them and is left alone on the ship, tending the plants and teaching his small drone companions to help him. Available to rent or buy. Dark Star, 1974. Made on a shoestring budget and expanded from a student film, director John Carpenter's future debut imagines space travel as something closer to a dead-end job. The crew drifts through a long, low-priority mission, killing time, playing pranks, and arguing, including one of the ship's self-aware bombs, which has to be talked out of detonating after it starts questioning its own existence. Watch it on Prime Video, Tubi, Plex, Pluto TV. Alien, 1979. As its famous tagline put it, in space, no one can hear you scream. Ridley Scott's sci-fi horror classic, which won the Academy Award for visual effects and spawned an enduring franchise, turns the commercial towing vessel Nostromo, essentially a tug-hauling cargo ship, into something claustrophobic and unforgiving. After the crew answers a distress signal and brings an alien life form back with them, their vessel becomes a trap, its corridors narrowing as the creature moves through the shadows. Available to rent or buy. Apollo 13, 1995. Based on the real ill-fated 1970 lunar mission, Ron Howard's Apollo 13 turns a failed trip to the moon into a slow-building fight to get home. After an onboard explosion cripples the spacecraft, Jim Lovell, played by Tom Hanks, and his crew are left working through a chain of problems with limited oxygen, power, and time. The film lives in its details. Front creeping along the walls, carbon dioxide levels rising, improvised fixes worked out step by step, as each small success only leads to the next crisis. Available to rent or buy. Moon, 2009. Director Duncan Jones' low-budget debut, Moon, keeps its focus tightly contained. Sam Rockwell plays a lone worker nearing the end of a 3-year stint on a lunar base, his days shaped by routine and the steady voice of the station's AI. When that routine begins to slip after a crash on the lunar surface and the discovery of another version of himself, his grip on reality starts to go with it. With only Rockwell on screen for most of its running time, Moon makes being stranded in space feel less like a physical problem than a psychological one. Watch it on Tubi. Gravity, 2013. Alfonso Cuarón's immersive survival thriller drops its characters into disaster almost immediately and never really lets them recover. After a catastrophic debris strike destroys their shuttle during a spacewalk, Sandra Bullock's astronaut is left untethered, spinning silently against the vastness of space, while George Clooney's veteran astronaut tries to guide her from a distance. The film is built as much on sensation as on story. You feel the scramble to grab hold of something before it's too late, the awareness that even a small mistake can carry you out to reach. Gravity reduces the experience of being lost in space to visceral things like breath and movement and the simple act of staying oriented. Television. Cherish the Time by Bruce Miller. Lisa Kudrow needed a reason to revisit Valerie Cherish and The Comeback. She found it in the emergence of artificial intelligence in Hollywood. In the 3rd season of her award-winning series, Kudrow confronts the backlash that could occur if computer programs started writing television shows. Would writers become extinct? Could other crafts be affected? Our goal was to get it on the air before a studio admitted they were using AI, says Michael Patrick King, The Comeback's executive producer and co-creator. I think that's a ways off, Kudrow adds, but they still wanted to be in the what-if phase. In the new episodes, Cherish has an opportunity to star in another sitcom, a win considering she already explored reality television and now samples the world of podcasts and bone-dry budgets. Executives are cagey about the writing staff. Ed has a couple of humans, but they don't let on what's up with the How's That, a sitcom that finds Cherish as the proprietor of a bed and breakfast. She's eager, particularly since it could bring her back to her roots. We felt the world may have escalated to the point as the desperation that Valerie was in the first season, King says. We're living in a nightmare of what could possibly happen to all of us. There's no actual hands-on experience yet of people working with it. An AI future in Hollywood is possible, Kudrow says. I firmly believe an audience will always let you know what it likes and what it doesn't, she says. There might be some AI entertainment that audiences like, but it's not going to take over everything. In the last season of The Comeback, more than a decade ago, reality television was viewed as a threat. Insiders wondered how it might affect scripted programming. As with the rise of AI, King says, the comedy comes from the fear. Cherish is on the side of no AI. When the third season begins, she's about to star on Broadway in Chicago. In working on her podcast, Cherish the Time. It feels like a natural aging process, Kudrow says. She won an Emmy and there was opportunity for her in a lot of things that didn't work out, but there's slightly more confidence, but still the desperation. She's been adrift for a few years when we meet her again. The idea of starring in a new sitcom seems ideal, particularly because the excesses are going away, King says. We used to have 23 writers in a writing room and 23 episodes, and then in the second 10 years it was down to one writer writing a show for 8 episodes. It just keeps shrinking. Cherish knows that and wants to be part of a renaissance for sitcoms. Shot at Warner Brothers, the home to Kudrow's hit series Friends and Seth Rogen's The Studio, the producers didn't want it to be too inside baseball. She doesn't even know Friends exists, King says of Cherish. She certainly doesn't know the studio does. We kept going. What is Valerie's world? That turned out to be whatever she pursues, because she's also the subject of her own documentary. She's never off camera. For Kudrow, that's a plus. You don't know when the camera's on you, so you've got to be there with listening and talking, she says. Getting back into Valerie mode wasn't difficult, she adds. When we were working, I did find sometimes she was being a little too angry, Kudrow says. It was more me making an argument than her. When Kudrow shows up as Cherish, it takes your breath away because it's like a different being, King says. It's very instinctual. That while a fourth season always is possible, the comeback is now billed as the final season. It took us 11 years for the key to show up, King says. If there's another visit, Kudrow says, Valerie will be digital. She can come back all you want. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the March 29th issue of the Sunday Gusto. Books. Paging Spring. 12 novels and nonfiction titles to add to your TBR list by Eric Peterson. These are challenging times by any metric, but here's something that's also true. 2026 is shaping to be a great year for books. Some of our most talented writers are delivering novels, nonfiction, and poetry in the coming months. If you want to lose yourself in a good book or just take a break from whatever you need a break from, rest easy knowing that there's a stellar lineup of titles coming to your local independent store. Here are 12 books to put on your calendar. A World Appears by Michael Pollan. Pollan has taken readers on all kinds of trips throughout his career, and this may be one of his most adventurous. In this nonfiction investigation, he attempts to figure out what human consciousness is, even as we face challenges from AI, and ponder the question of what it means to be a person. Out now. Kin by Tahari Jones. In this follow-up to her super successful bestseller, An American Marriage, Jones returns with a novel about the divergent paths taken by two young women growing up without their mothers in the South. Out now. Brawler, Gruff, by Lauren Gruff. Gruff is so well known for her National Book Award nominated novels Fates and Furies and Matrix that you could almost forget she's an exceptional short story writer. Her collection, Florida, also was a finalist for the National Book Award, and it won the Story Prize, so you can expect Brawler to hit hard. Out now. Python's Kiss by Louise Erdrich. In her new collection of short fiction, National Book Award and Pulitzer Prize winner Erdrich composes stories that deliver rich experiences in a variety of settings. A girl and her aunt discussing wedding dresses, a part-time school bus driver navigating a blizzard, an afterlife featuring unexpected holdovers from Earth. Expect these pieces to delight, surprise, and transport you. Out now. A Suit or a Suitcase by Maggie Smith. Known for her devastating poem Good Bones, Smith found success with her memoir You Could Make This Place Beautiful and nonfiction works on creativity and inspiration. Dear writer, and keep moving. This new book is a return to poetry, and its title piece alone has us excited to read more. Out now. Son of Nobody by Jan Martel. In his first novel in a decade, the best-selling author of Life of Pi returns with a story about a scholar who finds a lost epic poem about the Trojan War, which has uncanny correlations to his own life as he works on translating it. Out March 31st. London Falling by Patrick Radden Keefe. Author of one of the best works of nonfiction of the 21st century, Say Nothing, Keefe presents here what at first appears to be a work of true crime, the story of a young man who fell, jumped, or was pushed from a high-rise apartment in London. But as the author investigates, a larger, more tangled story about money, crime, class, and influence emerges. Out April 7th. Transcription by Ben Lerner. A poet and author of much admired novels, including The Topeka School and 10:04, returns with a work of fiction about a writer who travels to interview his aging mentor, only he's without a recording device after dropping his phone in the hotel sink. Out April 7th. Rachel Fong. My Dear You by Rachel Kong. The author of the acclaimed Real Americans and Goodbye Vitamin, which won the California Book Award for First Fiction, returns with a collection of short fiction that explores love, dating, race, capitalism, and many other things. Available April 7th. The Palm House by Gwendolyn Riley. Riley is the author of the much-praised novels My Phantoms and First Love. This new one concerns the friendship between two Londoners, a writer and an editor, who meet up to discuss work, life, and their parents. Available April 14th. Go Gentle by Maria Semple. The author of Where'd You Go, Bernadette, returns with a new novel about a divorced Stoic philosopher named Adora Hazard, whose well-ordered life and deeply considered existence gets shaken up by a combination of sketchy art deals and her own shady past. available April 14th. The Left and the Lucky by Willie Walton. I'm already on record as loving Walton's previous novel, The Horse, and this new one sounds like a balm for difficult times. Divorced house painter Eddie befriends Russell, his 8-year-old's next-door neighbor. Russell's mother has her hands full taking care of her aging mother and Russell's troubled older brother. Everybody can use good friends or a book about them, right? Available April 14th. Taste. Fry Baby brings quirky vegan donuts back to 5 Points by Francesca Bond. Ann Hogan opened Buffalo's first vegan donut shop nearly a decade ago. It was a sensation, but she was 26 and had no idea what she was doing. I'm sure it showed in all the times we've sold out, Hogan said. Our main gripe on the internet was, what are your hours? Like, I don't know. Well, she must have had some idea what she was doing because she struck a nerve. At Fry Baby Donuts, she had exactly what Buffalo wanted, exactly when Buffalo wanted it. This was 2017. It was the era of Millennium Pink and the world Instagrammable. Hogan's donuts were vegan and quirky, in flavors like bubblegum. Colorful donuts symbolizing ethically conscious consumption, the perfect Instagram post at the time. Hogan struggled to keep up with demand. She spent 5 years in Allentown until closing in 2022, when it was clear that her shop was destined to be torn down and become apartments. Hogan regrouped. She returned for a while to a place she worked at pre-Fry Baby, DiCamillo's, before deciding to give her business another shot. Now she's 35 and taking care of her mental and physical health. We're throwing around 50-pound bags of flour. It's really physically taxing job, she said. Fry Baby Donuts in all of its vegan glory has returned. Hogan is better prepared. This time around, I'm trying to make it manageable instead of turning that off and being a human machine, Hogan said. But it's no longer 2017. Hogan feels the shift. She wonders if veganism had its moment like cupcakes did all those years ago, and if it was just a trendy thing. She's making fewer donuts and selling out less often. News outlets have reported a drop in vegan-only restaurants and a rise in meat eating. Hogan is no longer vegan. I try to stay mostly vegetarian, though everything she makes and sells is. Some of Fry Baby's fellow vegan-centric businesses, Grindhouse, Root, and Bloom Merge, closed just before or during the pandemic. But then came a new wave. Sunshine Vegan Eats, Strong Hearts, and more recently, Sevens, all cater to Buffalo vegans. Vegan options also entered the mainstream. Many restaurants now offer at least a few thoughtful vegan choices. There's more competition, and Hogan wonders potentially less demand. Fry Baby Donuts is also no longer on busy Elmwood Avenue, where she'd catch workers heading to the office. She's now tucked away in an unassuming storefront, 69 Shenango Street on a by street in the West Side's 5 Points neighborhood. She shares the space with Moneybags Dumplings. Mostly, Hogan thinks the slower business comes from the fact that she opened very quietly a year ago. Perhaps she was scarred from trying to keep up with the demand before, she said. I wanted to do it quietly to see, okay, is this something that I can do on my own as a hobby and still pay the bills, Hogan said, which I can't, so I am now trying to effectively grow the business. Fry Baby Donuts in its reincarnation has reliable hours, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Thursday and Friday, 9 to 3 Saturday, and the ability to keep up with the demand. Hogan's Donuts still fizz with her creativity. She makes at least a dozen flavors, rotating the more weird ones, like a recent grape donut with bubblegum cream weekly. There's a key lime pie donut with bright green frosting that could match a Lily Pulitzer dress. On a recent visit, both the lime donut and the maple glazed donut had the same punchy flavors that I remember from Fry Baby's first shop. These are not the kind of desserts that hint at a flavor and make you wonder if you read the description correctly. They are flavorful and nearly indistinguishable from their buttery counterparts. Fry Baby serves vegan pizza both by the slice and frozen to go, and house-made vegan pizza logs. Donuts are $2.60 to $2.75 each, $15 for half a dozen, $25 for a dozen. Fritters are $3.15. On Fridays and Saturdays, she has a few other pastries, such as a pan of chocolate. Whether the vegan market is as robust as it once was shouldn't impact Fry Baby's donuts too much, Hogan hopes. She always wanted it to be, kind of been the point, is that I wanted to make something that was not just for the vegan community, but for anybody who was intrigued by crazy flavors or just fun donuts, Hogan said. Even writing my business plan, they're like, what demographic do you want? Everybody who likes donuts. Everyone. It didn't really work out that way. I just never hoped for it to be a corner in the market. I wanted to just be quietly vegan. Food events. Resurgence Brewing is hosting Pizza Fest from noon to 3, April 19th at 55 Chicago Street. Pizzerias will bring a variety of styles and flavors to the brewery, where attendees can sample and vote for their favorites. Tickets are $20 pre-sale and $25 at the door. Those who missed it the first time will have another chance to attend a timed and themed dinner set to Nora Ephraim's Julie and Julia from 6 to 9, April 23rd at the Buffalo AKJ Art Museum, Elmwood Avenue. Tickets are $95, $125 with the drink pairings. Taste. Add some crunch. Deep fried matzo balls with herbal ranch by Stephanie Gans. There's something profoundly comforting about a steaming bowl of matzo ball soup. Those airy matzo balls floating in a rich chicken stock, dotted with carrots and sprinkled with dill. It's a prominent feature of my family's Passover menu, and it's notably my husband's all-time favorite food. We take matzo balls pretty seriously in our house. But even for us, after a while, bowl after bowl of matzo ball soup can feel a bit repetitive. We've spiced things up, trying out variations such as a kimchi-enriched broth or adding in the flavors of pho. But when really thinking outside the bowl, I came up with these deep-fried matzo balls, the light and flutzy matzo balls we love, breaded in a combo of potato starch and panko, then deep-fried until golden brown and crunchy. Like all fried foods, these are just begging for a dip, so I pair them with my herby horseradish lace ranch dressing. They have quickly become one of our favorite Passover recipes. They're the perfect snack for Passover or frankly any time. Deep fried matzo balls with herbal ranch. 1 packet of matzo ball mix, so it's a Manischewitz, 2 quarts of vegetable oil, such as safflower or grapeseed, 3/4 cup of potato starch, 1½ cups of panko breadcrumbs, half a teaspoon of kosher salt, half teaspoon of ground black pepper, 1 large egg, 1 tablespoon of water, chopped fresh dill, parsley, and chives. For the herbal ranch dressing, 3 sprigs of fresh dill, half a medium bunch of fresh chives, 4 sprigs of fresh parsley, half a cup of sour cream. Fourth, a cup of kosher for Passover mayonnaise, 2 tablespoons of buttermilk, 1.5 teaspoons of prepared horseradish, 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half teaspoon of kosher salt, fourth of a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. Make the matzo balls. Prepare matzo ball mix according to the package and form into 1-inch balls. After cooking, remove the balls from the water using a slotted spoon. Let cool to room temperature. Meanwhile, make the ranch dressing. Prepare the following, adding each into the same bowl as it completed. Pick the fronds from the dill sprigs and finely chop until you have 1 tablespoon. Finely chop chives until you have 1 tablespoon. Pick the leaves from the parsley sprigs and finely chop until you have 1.5 teaspoons. Chop more herbs for garnish if desired. Add sour cream, mayonnaise, buttermilk, horseradish, apple cider vinegar, garlic powder, salt, black pepper. Bread and fry. Heat the vegetable oil in a Dutch oven or large heavy bottom pot until 360. Meanwhile, line a rim baking sheet with paper towels. Prepare the breading and bread the matzo balls. Place potato starch in a small bowl. Place the panko breadcrumbs, a half teaspoon each of salt and pepper, in a medium bowl and stir to combine. Place egg and water in a second bowl and beat with a fork to combine. Working one at a time, dredge each matzo ball in the potato starch and shake off the excess. Dip in the beaten eggs until coated, allowing the excess to drip off. Dip in the panko until completely coated, gently pressing to adhere the panko to the matzo ball. Place on a plate in a single layer. Add matzo balls to the hot oil in batches of 4 and fry until golden brown all over and floating on the surface about 5 minutes. Transfer the paper towels and sprinkle lightly with more salt. Serve immediately with the herby ranch dip, garnished with more chopped dill, parsley, and chives. Fried matzo balls are best immediately after frying. Refrigerate leftover dressing in an airtight container for up to 1 week. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the March 29th issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News. Your reader has been Michelle. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the front section of the Sunday Times. At 2 o'clock, we have the New York Times opinion section. And at 3 o'clock, we have the New York Times arts and leisure section. Stay with us for these readings and more throughout the day. If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. As of this year, our agency has broadcast more than 300,000 hours of radio readings. Volunteer radio readers read newspapers, magazines, and books to area people who are blind or have a print disability, who are provided reading radios. Radio Reading's broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Radio Reading broadcasts from studios at 1199 Harlem Road in suburban Buffalo. Please let others know about Radio Reading. It's your service. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call 716-821-5555. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book,